back for that first foot and an additional foot back for that second. So once I come up into a loaded position, raising my hips, this leg is loaded to really explode, and this leg is at 90 degrees, but still recruited because of the warm-up movements that we did. Now there are 3 components to the start that you want to focus on, and these are the only 3 you're going to think about today. You know, not thinking about the running, not thinking about anything else, is just what you're going to do to get from this side of the line to that side of the line. So the 3 components, the first is create pressure. And this is just like a spring. You're going to be loading the spring from both ends, the feet as well as the hands. So the first thing you do as you bring your hips up is you create pressure in your feet and in your hands. Now I'm creating pressure with one objective, and that is to jump over this pine needle. And so I'm not thinking about where my feet are going to fall, I'm not thinking about anything else, I'm thinking about projecting my body out over that pine needle. So first thing I need to do is create adequate pressure to get my body to go that direction. Second is tighten your core. Now this is because as soon as you explode from your start, if you don't have a tight core, just like the water balloon, all of that force is going to go to waste. You're going to blow it into your core, it's going to fold, and you're not going to get anything out of that first step. So the second thing, create pressure, then load the core. Once the core is loaded, jump. Both feet, not stepping. And that's the big distinction, is you're not going to step out, you're going to jump with both feet and project yourself over that whatever mark or indicator you want to use, whether it's mental or physical. So first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to come up into a 3-point stance. So starting off here, create the pressure. Second, load the core, preparing for that jump. And then third, boom! Those first few steps are all set up by that initial explosion. Just like trying to move a car, if you move it from a standstill, it's going to take a lot more effort. But if you create a huge amount of momentum initially, each push after that's going to be easier. So your body's the car, and your only push that you get to start with both feet anyways, is going to be from that start. After that start, you only get one leg per step. So really utilize that jump and your opportunity to use both legs. Don't just step out. Really blow out with both feet. So let's go ahead, find a lane to kind of get set up. Take the general start, 2 steps back, 1 step behind that. First thing you're going to think about is creating pressure to jump. Second is tightening that core. Third is actually letting yourself jump out as far as you can. Right now you're just going to jump and then walk back. We're going to do it 3 or 4 times. All right, whenever you guys are ready, you guys can go on your own. So I'm still seeing a lot of stepping. So really think about jumping. If you want to grab a pine needle, put it a couple inches over the line to think about it. You can do that. But really you want to think your only focus is creating as much of a jump off of that first step as you can. Ryan, you want to bring your back foot in a little bit closer, but you also want to step your front foot back a little. So start with that front foot 2 feet back, so your toe should be there. And then this foot's toe should be right about there. Yeah. And so think about loading both legs the same way you would with a vert. Bring the hips up a little higher. There it is. And jump. So you dip the hips a little bit. Try and think of keeping that core loaded, and that's when you're loading the pressure.
Yeah, I didn't do that part.
So create the pressure, load the core, jump.
Okay.
I'll let everybody get comfortable with it, and then I want to kind of watch each one individually. So we'll go 3 or 4 starts on your own. Objective is creating enough energy to jump over that line. So on your last start, you were a little too forward. Keep the shoulders back a little and use that pressure to create force into your back legs to give yourself more in that jump. Yeah, so I mean, if you get, and here's one thing, guys, if you come up too far over your hands, you don't have any pressure on your feet, so when you go to start, your feet have to recoil back before they can push forward. If you put enough pressure back with the upper body to load the feet ahead of time to where they can't budge anymore except to push, that's what you're looking for. So you're trying to create, it's a little bit of an uncomfortable position, but that's why you don't have to hold it very long. But you're creating pressure against those feet so they're fully loaded so that when you start, there's no dip. It's nothing but forward drive. So create that load motion between the front of your body and the back half. Keep it tight with the core and then jump. Stretching these out to be a little bit longer. So, first two people, anybody want to go lanes 8 and 9? So I'm going to have two commands on this. I'll do set, and then I'll clap my hands. And on the clap, you guys will go. And so get yourself in a good, stable position. Set. Good. So with both of you guys, I would say keeping the head down a little bit more. And this is something I saw in a few people. When you have that head up, the first instinct is to get the head and spine in line. So if the head's already up, the first motion is to come straight up to here. Now what that does is it takes away your forward drive. So what you want to do is keep the head in line with the spine. So when you're down in that position, rather than being up here, drop the head to look straight down, because what that's going to do on your push is going to give you a little bit of that lower angle so you can continue that drive phase rather than standing straight up after 2 steps. So keep that head looking down. Don't over-exaggerate it. Try and keep it nice and relaxed and straightforward rather than tilting up to find where you're looking for. Next two. And it's just a couple steps, so it doesn't matter who's winning or anything like that. I just want only a couple people to look at it at a time. Set. So not bad. All I would say is just focusing on that jump rather than that step. So you both had a little bit of trying to anticipate that first step. So really think more about the jump, because no matter what, you're going to have to step next, no matter how you start that initial movement. But if you're worrying or thinking about the jump, then you're not putting total effort into the step. Or, I mean, when you're thinking about the step, you're not putting total effort into the jump. All right, so guys, get in position. So first thing, your feet are way too close to the line. So step it back 2 feet. So use your actual feet, because it's going to be based on your... That's fine, because you're also tall. It means you got long legs. You don't want to be as bunched up on those starts. And then 1 foot back from that. There you go. And so now create pressure, load the core, and jump. Set. So kind of that same thing, just focusing first on that double leg push more than anything else. Just like the vertical jumps we did over there, or the depth jumps. Set. Can you tell they're brothers? Stride for stride. So, Ryan, you raised your head up a little bit too soon, so just be sure to keep that down.
I didn't notice my head.
All right, so I think that's Joey and Bob, or no, just Joey. You want to get another one in, Bob?
Sure.
So 2 feet back for that first foot, and then additional foot back for that second. Create pressure, load the core, jump. Set. Good. All right. So now I want to go into one more thing to think about, and then we're going to go into a few drills, and then I don't want to give you any more to think about after that because I think that's going to be enough to get you going for a little while. For this next one, we're going to think just a little bit about transition. And so we're going to be accelerating to the second cone. It's 25 meters. The first cone is set out at 15 meters, and that's an indicator of how long you want to keep your head down at a minimum. So if your head is up before we reach that 15-meter mark, that means that you're out of position and you're not going to get the most out of your drive. If your head starts to come up after that, you'll get a much smoother transition into a full sprint. And so really just starting to ingrain keeping that head down as you're accelerating, because you want to keep that nice position to keep driving forward. The second thing you're going to think about while you're keeping that head down is keeping that core tight. Because not just in this first step, but that entire drive phase, you're going to be pushing a little bit harder than you normally would when you're in a total sprint. Because in the total sprint, you have a little bit less impact time, you're quicker off the ground and you're more efficient. It's more explosive and reactive when you're at your full sprint. But these first few steps, you're really driving. And so you've got to have that tight core, otherwise it's just going to bounce around and absorb all of that force. So using your same 3 components, create the pressure, load the core, and jump. Then you're thinking head down, tight core. So focus on this first. Once you're out of there, that's when you can be like, oh yeah, tight core, head down. So with this one, go ahead and find a lane. We're gonna do 6 at your own speed, taking as much rest as you want in between each one of these, because it's not about wearing you out, it's about training your central nervous system to be efficient and powerful. And you can only do that when you're rested. Space, because so keep that head down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on.
You gotta stay down.
Like,
All right.
as far as like,
So because you just finished deadlift, I'm going to try and give you a deadlift related trigger. So this first push in your start is the exact same muscles that you're using for deadlift. Because watch position in a deadlift, your hips come through and you extend the back. When you're pushing in this first step,
Yeah.
did you notice that first? Boom, you're driving those hips through, you're getting everything through. But you don't deadlift.
Campus without being checked in, you know, that kind of,
Like
you know,
this.
you're supposed to be bucked
So
up
you've
back,
got to
so
keep
like
that head down in a powerful position. So just think, lock the chin
Right, yeah, you might do.
to the sternum. Get in that position loaded.
Oh, really?
Unless there's something going on. Nice one. So Ryan, you want to get your hips up a little bit more?
Okay.
So the shoulders are still going to be a little over. So really, once you get those hips up nice and tall, think about really keeping that core tight and pushing into those legs a little bit so that you can jump forward. Head down. The only thing is you're really pushing your body back.
Nice, easy.
So rather than being up in here, you're really loaded back there, pushing yourself back. So keep those hips up. Shoulders are going to be over the hands, but you're still pressing back. With a little bit of a load, and keeping that force in your hip or in your core, so that you can really. Yeah.
It's like
All about that
going fully jump. It's not like, these players, they like.
So don't worry about your stride, don't worry about your step, worry about getting as much force forward
Really be focusing on
in
that.
that
So
position.
it's interesting to see that happen. Because the other thing is, like, athletes don't know. And
Hold on, Ryan.
a lot of the coaches don't know. There's definitely some coaches that do know, but
So
you're
get down
training
here.
multiple
position.
sports, you're just not
So you wanna be-
100% when the game time comes around.
So get your hands
for that particular sport.
positioned
that
like that.
you're
There you
playing.
go. You want quite a bit of
So,
weight
again,
on
but
those
every
things.
coach wants to get.
Now you're going to
practice
push
time as
back
they
through
can
the
as
fingers
kids, so
to create pressure
have a challenge
in the
there.
legs. But keep the legs flexed and tight because they've got to be ready to explode. Just like
Yeah, I'm not.
loaded for
I'd actually
a
have to
sprint.
ask her specific.
Take a breath in.
You know, you get
load
the
that core.
star athletes are
Jump.
going to want to play club
There it is.
volleyball because
That's what you're looking for right there.
So
I'm just gonna practice that.
So you want to draw up and tighten everything to get in that stable, explosive position. The last thing before you jump is you load that core and fire. But you keep bobbing your butt,
It's
keep
just
dropping
like,
back and then going forward,
Okay.
rather than pushing the feet back to get that tension to where you can't drop back. You need to go forward.
Okay. So
So it's load those hamstrings, keep that core tall.
and that's all.
Yeah. So she did.
That's it.
cool.
You're getting close.
Yeah. I need to remember the
Yeah.
cues. So
Hold on, man.
yeah.
I will.
So
That's exciting. I laughed.
create pressure.
Yeah, pressure on more pressure on the hands than the
A
legs.
lot more pressure. Well, you're going to create equal pressure because you're pushing them together. Create pressure,
So then
load
tight
the
core,
core,
head down, go.
jump.
That's definitely her nature. But she gets it.
She got perfect one.
So same thing with both you guys.
She's good. I mean,
It looks
it's
pretty good,
an
but I want
art.
you
I mean,
to
there's definitely a talent there.
And that just means
That
being patient by an extra 10,
understanding
15th of a second and letting that
both
hip
sides.
come
Exactly.
all the way through. Because you're getting a decent push, but then you cut it short to get that foot through rather than letting it follow all the way through and happen naturally. So just commit to that drive a little bit longer. It'll feel just like you're doing kind of a relaxed, more of a easy push, but you're still being really explosive and really powerful.
Not much experience, but then, you know, again, it's everyone knows.
There it is. That looks better.
Just, you know, you take the good things. Yeah.
Oh no. Brought the head up.
Because Vicky was there for a while and then there was a nut. And something happened. This was my wife. She actually got recruited to take.
Good, Bob. Try and keep the head down a little bit more on that start.
Is that better?
Yeah, that was a lot better.
Train
It looked a lot smoother. The transition looked more fluid. Yeah. It did. I still think you could be a little more patient on that drive. So keep that head down and really let everything float and lengthen before you pull back that head down.
So like, do I like lunge my hips forward or?
Yeah, because essentially, you know, what you're doing is you're using your glutes at that last minute, and what that's going to do is drive that hip forward. So as you're driving,
Did they make
it's
playoffs?
going to drive forward,
They did.
and that hip's going to come through and lead with that knee. So just be a little more patient to let that happen, rather than getting to here and then chopping it short again.
Yeah, so that
Huh?
also.
Yours looks solid. That last one looked good. So just kind of keep working on those same mechanics. You can't change too much in one day, but as for today, just keep working on that and it should keep improving. Same with you, Maddie. It's been looking pretty good. Just focusing on that initial jump and keeping that head down. So, hey Maddie, you got to get that front foot back more. You are in this position now. Remember, it's got to be 2 feet back and then 1 foot behind that. And make sure you do it every single time so you get comfortable in that position. Chris, the only thing I can see with you, getting those hips up a little bit
higher?
more. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How's everything feeling?
Good.
Good,
Good. I like the cause I do a lot of stuff with the 4-point stance with the guys as well. But I like doing the 3 because then it really helps you compress.
Yeah, I like starting, kind of creating that pressure from the floor, and then once you pull that up, it just lets you kind of compress a little bit more before you fire
that.
out. But yeah, just bring those hips up a little more because it's going to help you get that rear leg into a better, more powerful position. And we're just going to cool down. We can do a few wide open sprints if you want to. But I wanted to make it more of a...
Josh talked my brother into a race. So I gotta. Don't have a chance. So.
I'll race you.
What's that supposed to be, Dad? This will actually be a good race.
So just thinking, keeping that head down, and keeping those foot, that drive forward. I'm starting to see you overextend that first step a little bit. It's good because it's getting you to push.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
So think about that push, and then just like that cycling drill, or during our step overs, as soon as you get that push, just bring that leg back and drop it right below the hip. So you don't need to necessarily reach out as far as it can go out. No matter, yeah, so no matter how far. And, hey guys, that's a good point. Let me go over this real quick. One thing about the drive phase is you don't want to get too hung up in how far you're stepping with that first foot. Now it's a good trigger to aim for something, but if you get too caught up in the step, it's going to put your foot out here rather than underneath your hips, which is going to stop you. So the jump is only important until you're off the ground. Once you're off the ground, that next step has to come down under your hip regardless of how far you pushed yourself. So if you happen to push yourself way out there, great, you're going to hit that spot. If you didn't get a great push, either way, you need that foot to come under the hip to be most efficient for setting up that next step. Otherwise, if you think about reaching too much, now you're stopping yourself and starting again. So whether you jump a little bit or you jump a lot, the second step needs to come directly under and behind that hip so that it can propel you forward. Otherwise, you're playing catch up on step 1. So if anybody has any sprints or starts left, you can think about that. Otherwise, tuck that away and remember it. Bring the hips up a little more, Bob.